The air in the underground tunnel smelled like death and burning metal. Pressed his back against the cold concrete wall and listened. Above him, the streets of what used to be Seoul were crawling with patrols. The lizard creatures had taken everything from humanity 15 years ago, and they never stopped hunting. Was 38 years old, but he felt ancient. His face was covered in scars, and his dark eyes held the weight of too many losses. He had been a colonel in the Korean Space Force once back when humans still controlled their own planet. Now he was just a resistance fighter, leading a handful of survivors who refused to bow down. "Commander, they're moving the patrols east," whispered Na from behind him. She was his second in command, a woman who could kill a warrior with her bare hands if needed. Her short black hair was matted with dust, and her weapons harness carried more ammunition than seemed possible. Nodded. "Good. That means the facility is less guarded. Is Sung ready with the codes?" A young man crawled forward through the tunnel. Sung was barely 22, but he was the best hacker humanity had left. His thin fingers were always dancing across stolen technology, breaking into their systems. "I've got it, Commander. Their security will go blind for exactly 4 minutes when we're inside." 4 minutes had led missions with less. The cloning facility was their target tonight. The lizards grew their soldiers in huge tanks, creating armies faster than humans could fight them. If team could destroy this facility, it would slow down the enemy, maybe buy humanity a few more months. Behind them, 12 more resistance fighters waited in the darkness. They were all that remained of a group that once numbered in the hundreds. They were efficient killers, and they showed no mercy to rebels. "Remember the plan," said quietly. His voice was calm, but his heart was pounding. Something felt wrong about this mission. He had learned to trust his instincts over the years. "Nah, you take the left corridor. Sung stays with me. We plant the explosives and get out fast." They moved through the tunnels like ghosts, had memorized every path under the ruined city. These tunnels had saved human lives countless times, hiding refugees from the death squads. The facility entrance appeared ahead, a heavy metal door built into the subway wall. Sung pulled out his hacking device and connected it to the door's panel. His fingers flew across the screen. Sweat dripped down his face despite the cold air. "Got it," Sung whispered. The door hissed open. They slipped inside, weapons raised. The facility was massive, stretching deep underground. Rows of green glowing tanks filled the main chamber, each one holding a developing warrior. The sight made stomach turn. These creatures would be born only to enslave more humans. "Plant the charges on the support columns," ordered. His team spread out, moving quickly and silently. That was when the lights came on. Bright, blinding light flooded the facility. His blood went cold. He spun around and saw them, dozens of warriors emerging from hidden positions. They had been waiting. "It's a trap," Na screamed. She opened fire immediately, her rifle spitting bullets at the advancing lizards. His mind raced. They had been betrayed or tracked, it didn't matter which. All that mattered was survival. Fall back, everyone fall back to the tunnels. But the door they had entered through slammed shut. More poured in from other entrances, their scales glinting in the harsh light. They were surrounded. The battle was chaos. Gunfire echoed off the walls. Shot 3 warriors, watching them fall with smoking holes in their chests. But more kept coming. His team fought like cornered animals, taking down enemies even as they fell one by one. Sung went down first, a blade through his chest. The young hacker's eyes went wide with shock before the light left them, roared in anger and shot the killer, but it was too late. Na was fighting like a demon, her knife in one hand and pistol in the other. She killed 5 before an energy blast hit her in the back, watched her fall and something broke inside him. These were his people, his family, and they were dying because of his leadership. "Surrender, human," a deep voice hissed. The warriors parted and General walked forward. He was massive, nearly 8 feet tall, with scales like polished obsidian. His yellow eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "Your resistance ends tonight." Was out of ammunition. Blood ran down his side from a wound he didn't remember getting. Around him, his team lay dead or dying. He had failed. Humanity had lost again. They captured him easily. They dragged to the center of the facility and forced him to his knees, circled him slowly, savoring the moment. "Do you know what you are, human?" the general asked. His voice was like gravel scraping stone. "You are animals, mammals, weak creatures that we keep as slaves. You should be grateful we allow you to live at all." Said nothing. He stared at the bodies of his friends. Brought in the survivors from his team, 3 men who had been captured alive. One by one, the general executed them in front of. Each gunshot was like a hammer blow to soul. The general wanted him to break, to beg, to show weakness. But did not break. Even as pain consumed him, even as his body failed, he kept his eyes locked on. Hatred burned in his chest, a fire that nothing could extinguish. "Your species is finished," said. He struck across the face with his clawed hand, opening deep cuts. "There is no hope for humanity. You will all die as slaves." Blood filled his mouth. He spat it at the general's feet. "We'll never stop fighting," he managed to say. His voice was weak but defiant. "Even if you kill every last one of us, we'll never bow down." Laughed, a horrible hissing sound. "Then die with your pride, mammal." The general struck again and again. His vision blurred. He could feel his life slipping away, blood pooling beneath him. His last thoughts were of failure and rage. He had let his people down. He had let humanity down. As darkness closed in, his final emotion was pure, burning hatred for the. If there was any power in the universe, any force that listened to dying men, he begged for one thing: the chance to make them pay. Then there was nothing, only darkness, only death. But in that darkness something stirred, something ancient and patient that had been waiting for this moment. Death had taken, but death was not finished with him yet, not even close. Woke up, but he was not alive. He stood in a place that should not exist, a vast emptiness that stretched forever in all directions. There was no ground beneath his feet, yet he stood. There was no light, yet he could see. Whispers filled the air, thousands of voices speaking in languages he did not know. "Where am I?" asked. His voice echoed strangely, as if the emptiness itself was answering. "You are in the space between," a voice replied. It came from everywhere and nowhere at once. The place where endings meet beginnings. Shapes began to form in the darkness. They were not human or anything had ever seen. They were like smoke given form, like thoughts made solid. 3 figures stood before him, towering and ancient. Knew instantly that these beings were old beyond measure, older than stars. "What are you?" he asked. "We are the Keepers," they said in unison. Their voices harmonized in a way that made his mind ache. "We watch the universe. We see all that was, all that is, and all that might be." Felt small before them, insignificant, but anger still burned in his chest. "Then you saw what they did to us. You saw them destroy humanity. Why didn't you stop them?" "We do not interfere," the Keepers said. "We only observe. But you are different. You died with a purpose unfulfilled. You died with rage in your heart. That rage has brought you here." The darkness around them began to change. Images appeared, playing out like memories that were not his own. Saw Earth, but not the Earth he knew. This Earth was covered in gleaming cities that reached into space. Massive ships filled the sky, each one larger than mountains, and in those ships he saw humans. But these were not the humans he knew. They wore armor that blazed with power. They wielded weapons that could shatter worlds. They commanded fleets that numbered in the millions. This was humanity at its peak, strong and terrifying. "This was your species once," the Keepers said. 5,000 years ago, humans ruled the stars. The Terran Ascendancy, they called themselves. They conquered 1,000 worlds. They had no equals. Stared in disbelief. "That's impossible. We're barely surviving. We've been slaves for 15 years. Time changes all things, the keepers replied. The Terran ascendancy fell. War consumed them. They created weapons too terrible to control, enemies too numerous to defeat. Your ancestors fled to Earth and hid. They chose to forget their past to become simple again. Over thousands of years, the truth became legend, and legend became myth, and myth was forgotten entirely. More images flowed past. Saw the war that destroyed the ascendancy. He saw human worlds burning. He saw fleets destroyed. And he saw but they looked different. They were smaller, weaker, enslaved by another race that humans had fought. They were created as weapons, the keepers explained. Engineered by an old enemy specifically to hunt humans. That enemy is long dead, but they remember the Terran ascendancy. They remember how humans nearly wiped them from existence. Their enslavement of your people is revenge for ancient crimes. His mind reeled. Everything he knew was a lie. Humanity had been powerful once, powerful enough to be feared across the galaxy, and they had their own reasons for hating humans, reasons that went back thousands of years. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked. The keepers moved closer. Their presence was overwhelming, like standing before a mountain or staring into the sun. "Because we are offering you a choice. You can rest now. You can join the endless sleep, free from pain and anger. Your suffering can end." Or asked. He already knew there was another option. He could feel it in the air between them. "Or you can return," the keepers said. "We can send you back to the world of the living, but not as you were. We will give you a gift, the blood of your ancestors. The strength they once possessed will flow through you. The knowledge they carried will fill your mind. You will become what humanity was always meant to be, a warrior without equal." Felt his heart racing, even though he was dead. "What's the price?" "The price is purpose," the keepers replied. "If you return, you cannot rest until your mission is complete. You must you must free your people. You can never have peace until humanity is safe. Death will not take you again until your purpose is fulfilled. This is both a gift and a curse." Images of his fallen comrades flashed through his mind. Nub, brave and strong. Sung, brilliant and young. All the people he had led, all the humans suffering in slavery. He thought of the millions of his species working in mines on distant worlds, treated like animals by the... "Will I be strong enough to beat them?" he asked. "You will be formidable," the keepers said. "But strength alone does not win wars. You will need allies. You will need weapons. You will need to awaken the legacy your species abandoned. The path will be hard. Many will die before the end." "They're already dying," said quietly. "They die every day as slaves. If I can give them hope, if I can give them a chance to fight back, then it's worth any price." The keepers seemed to nod, though they had no heads. "We must warn you of one thing. Revenge is a poison. It will consume you if you let it. They are your enemy, but they are not evil. They fight for their survival just as you fight for yours. Both species remember ancient wrongs. This cycle of hatred goes back. If you return seeking only vengeance, you will become the monster you hate." "I understand," said. He did not know if that was true, but he said it anyway. "Then we offer you this gift," the keepers said. They reached out with hands made of smoke and light. "Return, return and be reborn. Carry the strength of the Terran ascendancy. Fight for your people. But remember, every choice has a price and every war has a cost." They touched him and pain exploded through his entire being. It felt like his body was being torn apart and rebuilt at the same time. Information flooded his mind. Thousands of years of combat knowledge, tactical data, weapons training. He saw battles fought before humans even discovered writing. He felt the power of the ancient warriors flowing into him. Screamed, but the sound was lost in the void. The darkness swallowed him whole. The keepers' voices faded into whispers. "Wake up, warrior of Earth. Wake up and take back what was lost." His eyes snapped open. He was lying on a cold metal table in a dim room. Medical equipment surrounded him. The smell of chemicals filled his nose. He recognized this place instantly, a morgue facility. They brought dead humans here to study them, to understand their weaknesses better. But was not dead anymore. He sat up slowly. His body felt different, stronger. Every muscle hummed with energy. His senses were sharper. He could hear footsteps 3 rooms away. He could smell the guards before he saw them. An alarm began to wail. Cameras in the ceiling had spotted him moving, heard the guards running toward the room, their clawed feet scraping on metal floors. He looked down at his hands. They were his hands, but also not. They were steadier, more powerful. He felt the knowledge of 100 fighting styles in his mind, techniques that had been lost for thousands of years. The door burst open. 3 guards rushed in, weapons raised. They saw standing beside the dissection table and froze in shock. The human lives, one of them hissed in their harsh language, understood them perfectly now, another gift from the keepers. Not just lives, said quietly. His voice was cold and hard. I've returned. He moved faster than they could react. 5 seconds later, all 3 guards were dead on the floor, stood over their bodies, breathing steadily. He had not even broken a sweat. More guards were coming, could hear them, dozens of them. He looked around and spotted his old combat knife on a medical tray. He picked it up, feeling its familiar weight. Then walked toward the door, toward the army of waiting outside. Death had returned him to the world, and now he was going to teach the lizards what it meant to face a human who could not die. 3 months had passed since escaped from the morgue facility. In those 3 months he had become a ghost story among them. They called him the Returned, a human who should be dead but kept killing their soldiers. They said he moved like shadow and struck like lightning. They said he could not be stopped. Liked it that way. Fear was a weapon and he used it well. He stood now on a rooftop in the ruins of, watching a convoy move through the streets below. His enhanced vision let him count the guards, 12 warriors, 2 transport vehicles full of human prisoners. The convoy was taking those prisoners to a labor camp on Mars, where they would mine radioactive ore until they died. But the prisoners would not reach Mars, not tonight. Jumped from the roof, falling 4 stories to land in a crouch on the street. The impact would have shattered a normal human's legs. He felt nothing but the thrill of the hunt. Before the guards could react, he was among them. His knife found throats and hearts. His fists broke scales and bones. In 30 seconds, all 12 guards lay dead or dying. Opened the transport vehicles and looked at the frightened humans inside. You're free, he said simply. Head east to the coast. There are boats waiting. Tell them the Returned sent you. The prisoners stared at him like he was a miracle. Some started crying. Others reached out to touch him, to make sure he was real, helped them out of the vehicles and pointed them toward safety. Then he disappeared into the night before more could arrive. This was his life now. Strike, kill, vanish, free as many humans as he could, but knew it was not enough. He could kill 1,000, 10,000, and more would come. The lizards had armies spread across the solar system. To truly free humanity, he needed more than personal vengeance. He needed an army of his own. That was why he was building one. Had spent the past 3 months making contact with other resistance cells. There were more humans fighting back than the new. Small groups, hidden in the ruins of cities or in the tunnels beneath the earth. Had found them, one by one, and united them under a single purpose. He had also been searching for specific people. People he knew from before, survivors with skills humanity would need. The first one he found was Na. Stood now in front of a screen in his hidden base, an old subway station deep beneath Seoul. The screen showed a live feed from a labor camp on Mars. It had taken Sun, the younger sister of Sung, 2 weeks to hack into the surveillance system. She sat beside him now, her fingers dancing across a keyboard. There, Sun said, pointing at the screen. Worker Section 7, that's her. Leaned forward. The image was grainy, but he could see her. Na, thinner than he remembered, her face hard from months of slave labor, but she was alive. Relief flooded through him. "Can you arrange a transport failure?" asked. Sun grinned. The young woman was only 19, but she had inherited her brother's genius for technology. "Already done. Their supply ship arrives in 6 hours. I've programmed it to have an engine malfunction right over the camp. It'll be chaos. Perfect time for a rescue." Nodded, "Get me a ship." The rescue was brutal but successful. Infiltrated the Mars camp during the confusion, fought through the guards, and found Na in the mining tunnels. When she saw him, her eyes went wide. "You're dead," she whispered. "I watched you die." "Death gave me back," said. He handed her a weapon. "I'll explain later. Right now we need to leave." They fought their way out together, just like old times. Na moved like she had never stopped being a warrior, even after months of slavery. By the time they reached Stolen Ship, she had killed 7 guards. In the ship on the way back to Earth told her everything. The Keepers, the ancient human empire, the power flowing through his veins. Na listened without interrupting. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "So we were the bad guys once," she finally said. "Thousands of years ago." "Maybe," replied. "But the humans alive now, they didn't do anything wrong. They deserve freedom." "Agreed," Na said. She looked at her hands, still shaking slightly from adrenaline. "What's the plan?" "Build an army," said. "Find others, get weapons, take back our world, then the solar system." "That's a terrible plan," Na said. Then she smiled, the first smile had seen on her face in months. "I'm in." Over the next few weeks, they found more survivors. Jin was next, a former pilot who had been enslaved at a mining station near Jupiter. He was working on the giant drills when a Na broke him out. Jin was tall and quick-witted, and he could fly anything with engines. Then they found me, a scientist who they had forced to work on bioweapons. She had been secretly sabotaging their research for months. When rescued her, she hugged him so hard he thought his ribs might crack, enhanced strength or not. "I knew someone would come," Mi said. She was in her 40s with streaks of gray in her black hair and eyes that burned with intelligence. "I've been preparing. I have data, lots of data, that have weaknesses they don't even know about." The most important discovery came from me. She examines blood under a microscope and then stared at the results for a full hour without speaking. "This is impossible," she finally said. "Your DNA has been completely rewritten. There are genetic markers here that don't exist in any living human, but they match samples from archaeological sites, from bones found in ancient ruins." "The Terran ascendancy," said. "Yes," Mi breathed. "Whoever changed you, they gave you the genetics of our ancestors, the original humans before thousands of years of genetic drift. You're not just enhanced, you're what humanity used to be." "Can you replicate it?" Na asked. Mi shook her head. "Not the full transformation, but I can identify the markers, and I think I know what they might respond to." She pulled up an old map on her computer screen. It showed the Himalayan mountains, with a location marked in red. "Before they came, archaeologists found something in the mountains," Mi explained. "An ancient structure buried under ice. They thought it was just an old temple, but the energy readings were strange, unlike anything natural. The site was sealed off for more study." "You think it's from the Terran ascendancy?" asked. "I think it's more than just a site," Mi said. Her eyes gleamed with excitement. "I think it's a facility, a weapons cache or a bunker, something our ancestors left behind. And if your genetic markers can activate ancient technology, then you might be able to open it." 2 weeks later stood in front of a massive door carved into a Himalayan mountainside. His small team was with him, Na, Jin, Mi, and Sun. They had hiked for 3 days through ice and snow to reach this place. The door was smooth black material, neither metal nor stone, with symbols etched into its surface. Placed his hand against the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the symbols began to glow with blue light. The door rumbled and split down the middle, opening to reveal a passage leading deep into the mountain. "It recognizes you," Me said in awe. They entered carefully, weapons ready. The passage led to a huge chamber carved from the rock, and inside that chamber was exactly what humanity needed: weapons. Thousands of them, armor that gleamed even after, rifles that hummed with power, grenades, explosives, plasma cannons. And in the back of the chamber, something even more precious: 3 intact warships, each one sleek and deadly. "This is an armory," Jin said. He ran his hand along one of the ships. "These vessels are ancient, but they're still functional. The power cores are still active." "Our ancestors hid this here," said. He picked up one of the rifles. It felt perfect in his hands, like it was made for him specifically. "They left it behind when they decided to forget their past, but now we need it again." They spent days cataloging everything. The database in the facility told them more about the Terran ascendancy, about the wars they fought and the technology they created. It was almost too much to process. Humanity had been gods once, and they had thrown it all away. "We can arm thousands of fighters with this," Na said. She was examining a suit of powered armor. "We can actually fight back." But their discovery did not go unnoticed. They had been tracking movements. General had sent his best hunters, an elite squad called the Cold Bloods. They attacked whilst Team was loading weapons onto the ships. The battle in the ancient armory was vicious. The Cold Bloods were the best warriors they had, faster and stronger than normal soldiers. Their leader was a veteran called Scarthroat, and he fought with 2 curved blades. Killed 4 of the Cold Bloods, but Scarthroat was different. He was skilled and careful, testing defenses. They fought across the armory floor, weapons clashing. Finally, got the upper hand and drove his blade deep into Scarthroat's shoulder, but instead of finishing him, paused. "Tell your general," said, breathing hard. "Tell that humanity is coming back. Tell him we found our teeth again." He let Scarthroat retreat. The wounded leader fled with his surviving soldiers. Na looked at with confusion. "Why let him go?" she asked. "Because I want them to be afraid," said. "I want every in the solar system to know that we're not prey anymore. We're predators." Back at their base, sent out a message on every frequency humans used. It was broadcast to Earth, Mars, the mining colonies on Europa and Titan, everywhere humans were enslaved. His face appeared on screens in labor camps and hidden shelters. "My name is," he said. "Some of you know me as the Returned. I died fighting and death sent me back. Now I stand here with weapons from our ancestors, technology from when humanity ruled the stars. We were conquerors once. We can be again. This is not just survival anymore. This is war. Join us. Rise up. The time for hiding is over. The time for revenge has begun." Across the solar system, humans heard his words, and they began to hope. The solar system was burning and had lit the fire. His message had sparked uprisings everywhere humans lived. On Earth, resistance cells that had been hiding for years came out into the open. On Mars, slaves in the mining colonies seized weapons from their guards. On Europa and Titan, humans sabotaged facilities from within. The rebellion spread like wildfire, fueled by hope and ancient weapons. The Phoenix Army, as they called themselves now, numbered 50,000 strong, stood on the bridge of one of the ancient warships, now named the Rising Dawn, and watched through as his fleet assembled. They had 12 ships total, all recovered from hidden caches across Earth. It was not much compared to the Armada, but it was a start. Na commanded the ground forces, training recruits in the use of Terran ascendancy weapons. The new rifles could punch through armor like paper. The powered suits made human soldiers nearly as strong as the lizard warriors. For the first time in 15 years, humans had a real chance. Jin was the fleet commander, coordinating the ships with natural skill. The former pilot had taken to commanding multiple vessels like he was born for it. He stood beside on the bridge, studying tactical displays. The moon base is our first target, Jin said. He pointed to the holographic map floating between them. 3,000 garrison there. It's their main supply depot for Earth operations. If we take it, we cut off their reinforcements. How long? Asked. 3 days if we do it right, Jin replied. But we need to hit fast and hard. They will send reinforcements from Mars once they realize what's happening. Below decks, Mi was working on something that would change the war. She had discovered that human biology could be weaponized against their scales, so tough against normal weapons, had a weakness. Mi had created a chemical compound that made those scales brittle and weak. She called it the serpent's bane. It's not permanent, Mi explained to when she showed him the weapon. But spray this on a warrior and his armor becomes useless for about an hour, makes them vulnerable. Can we produce it in large quantities? Asked. Mi smiled. Already done. I have enough for the entire fleet. Sun had been even busier. The young hacker had infiltrated the communication network. She could listen to their orders, read their battle plans, even take control of their automated systems. During the attack on the moon base, she turned half their defense turrets against their own soldiers. The battle for the moon lasted exactly 3 days, just as Jin predicted. The Phoenix army landed in force, using the element of surprise. Led from the front, his enhanced body allowing him to fight for hours without tiring. He cut through warriors like they were made of paper. Behind him, human soldiers in powered armor pushed forward, reclaiming the lunar surface meter by meter. They fought back fiercely. They were not cowards and they had been soldiers for thousands of years, but they had gotten used to fighting weak, desperate humans. The Phoenix army was neither weak nor desperate. They were angry. When the moon base fell, stood on its highest point and planted a flag, the ancient banner of the Terran ascendancy, a blue earth on a field of stars. Humans across the solar system saw the image and wept with joy. But victories came with costs. 2,000 humans died taking the moon, walked through the medical bays afterward, seeing the wounded and the dying. Each face was a reminder that war was not glorious. It was just necessary. They knew the risks, Na said quietly. She stood beside him, her own armor from battle. They chose to fight. That doesn't make it easier, replied. The campaign continued. Mars was next, and it was brutal. The red planet had dozens of mining colonies, each one a fortress. The battles lasted for 2 weeks. They fought for every tunnel and every building. Human soldiers used Serpent's Bane to weaken enemy armor, then followed up with plasma weapons that burned through weakened scales. Personally led the assault on the largest colony called New Olympus. He fought through corridors choked with smoke and death, his enhanced senses guiding him through the chaos. At one point, he faced 5 warriors at once in a narrow hallway. They thought they had him trapped. 30 seconds later, all 5 were dead and had not even been scratched. But the cost kept rising. 5,000 humans died on Mars, attended memorial services when he could, speaking to the families of the fallen. What could he say to a mother who lost her son? That his death had meaning. That freedom was worth the price. The words felt hollow even as he said them. Slowly, methodically, the Phoenix army liberated the solar system. The asteroid mining stations fell next, then the colonies on Europa. Each victory weakened cut their supply lines, reduced their ability to fight back, but they were far from defeated. General watched the human rebellion from his flagship orbiting Saturn. The general had aged in these months, his scales losing their luster. Every report brought more bad news. The humans had ancient weapons. They had a leader who could not be killed. They had hope, and hope was the most dangerous weapon of all. Made a decision that would change everything. He sent a message to the home system, begging for reinforcements, and he received a reply that terrified him. Emperor himself was coming. The emperor of all was 300 years old and had never lost a war. His fleet was massive, with ships that could destroy planets. and he was bringing a weapon that would end the human rebellion once and for all, a planet-killer bomb, powerful enough to turn Earth into a dead rock floating in space. Sun intercepted the message and brought it to immediately. They stood in the war room, staring at the decoded intelligence. The Emperor's fleet would arrive in 1 week. If they did not stop him, Earth would burn. "We can't fight that fleet," Jin said. His face was pale. "They outnumber us 20 to 1. Their ships are more advanced than anything we have." "Then we don't fight the fleet," said quietly. He stared at the hologram of the Emperor's flagship, a massive vessel called the... "We go after the Emperor himself." Everyone in the room went silent. Na was the first to speak. "That's suicide," she said flatly. "Though we'll be protected by hundreds of ships, we'd never get close." "We don't need to get close with the fleet," said. His mind was already working through the plan. "We just need to get one ship through, one boarding team. If we can reach the Emperor and kill him, the command structure will collapse. Without leadership, their fleet will fall apart." "You're talking about boarding the most defended ship in the enemy fleet," Jin said. "The chances of success are almost zero." "Almost zero is better than zero," replied. He looked around at his commanders, his friends. "I'm not ordering anyone to come with me. This is a volunteer mission, but I'm going whether anyone else does or not." Na stepped forward first. "I'm with you always." Jin sighed and raised his hand. "Someone needs to fly the ship. Might as well be me." Me and Sun volunteered next, then 20 of the best Phoenix soldiers. They all knew it was probably a death sentence. They all came anyway. 5 days later, the fleet arrived. It filled the sky above Earth, thousands of ships blotting out the sun. His voice broadcast across all human frequencies. "Humans of Earth," the general said, "you have fought well, you have shown courage, but it ends now. Emperor has decreed that your species will be wiped from existence. Surrender now, and some of you will be allowed to live as slaves. Resist, and every human in the solar system will die." The demand for surrender came with a deadline, 24 hours. Stood on the bridge of the rising dawn, watching the enemy fleet. Behind him, his small boarding team prepared their weapons. Na was checking her armor. Jin was plotting their approach vector. Everyone knew they were probably going to die. "Any final words, Commander?" Na asked. Thought about everything that had led to this moment. His death at its hands, his resurrection by the Keepers, the long campaign to free humanity. He thought about all the people who had died believing in him. He could not let them down. "Death returned me once," said. "Maybe it'll do it again." The Phoenix fleet engaged the Armada. It was not a battle they could win, just a distraction. While thousands of ships fought and died in space, the rising dawn slipped through the chaos. Jin flew like a demon, dodging fire and debris. Somehow, impossibly, they reached the... "Initiating boarding procedures," Jin said through gritted teeth. Explosions rocked the ship around them. "This is going to hurt." The rising dawn smashed into the side of this hull, punching through armor and creating a breach. And his team rushed into the enemy flagship, weapons blazing. The war for humanity's future was about to reach its final battle, and was ready to finish what death had started. The inside of was chaos. Alarms screamed through every corridor. Warriors rushed toward the breach point, their claws scraping on metal floors. And his team of 22 humans pushed forward, fighting through wave after wave of enemies. The corridors were narrow, which worked in humanity's favor. They could not use their numbers effectively. Led from the front, his enhanced reflexes letting him dodge energy blasts and counter with lethal precision. Behind him, Na and the others fought like demons, their ancient weapons cutting through armor. They had studied the ship's layout from Sun's stolen data. The throne chamber was at the ship's center, 50 levels above them. They had to fight through every one of those levels. Jin stayed behind to guard their entry point, along with 5 soldiers. "Go," he told. "I'll make sure we have an exit when you need it." "If we survive," thought but did not say. He just nodded and kept moving. The fighting was brutal. Every level brought more enemies. His team was good, but they were only human, enhanced by ancient technology and driven by desperate courage, but still human. They began taking casualties. A soldier named Min Ho died on level 12, shot through the chest while protecting me. A woman called fell on level 19, her powered armor shredded by claws. One by one, his team shrank. By the time they reached level 40, only Na, me, Sun, and 6 soldiers remained. "Keep moving," ordered. Blood covered his armor, some his own, most belonging to enemies. His enhanced healing kept him fighting, but he could feel exhaustion creeping in. Even his improved body had limits. They reached a massive bulkhead door on level 48. Sun worked her hacking magic, but it was taking too long. Warriors were closing in from both directions. "We're trapped," one of the soldiers said, his voice shaking. "No," Jin's voice came through their communicators. "I'm overloading the Rising Dawn's reactor. It'll blow in 2 minutes. That should give you an opening." Jin No shouted into his comm. "Get out of there." "Someone needs to make sure they don't follow you," Jin replied. His voice was calm, almost peaceful. "Tell humanity I died fighting. That's all I ever wanted." The explosion rocked the entire ship. The bulkhead door lost power and slid open. Through their comm link, they heard Jin's final words before static cut him off. "Good luck, brother." Stood frozen for a moment, grief and rage warring inside him. Another friend gone. Another life spent to give humanity a chance. He forced himself to move forward. He could mourn later if there was a later. The throne chamber was beyond the bulkhead. They rushed inside and found themselves in a vast circular room. The walls were covered in displays showing the battle raging outside, and in the center, on a throne made of black metal, sat Emperor. The Emperor was massive, even larger than. His scales were like polished diamonds, each one glinting in the harsh light. His yellow eyes held the weight of 3 centuries of life. He did not stand when the humans entered. He just watched them with ancient patience. "So," the Emperor said. His voice was deep and resonant, filled with power. "The resurrected human finally reaches me. I have watched your campaign. You have fought well for a mammal." Raised his weapon, but the Emperor made no move to defend himself. Behind the throne, could see the planet killer weapon controls. One command from would destroy Earth. "Why do you hesitate?" the Emperor asked. "You have come to kill me, so kill me." "I want answers first," said. His finger was tight on the trigger, but something made him pause. "Why did you enslave us? Why do you hate us so much?" Laughed a horrible hissing sound. "Hate? You think this is about hate? Foolish child, this is about survival. Let me show you something." The Emperor gestured and the wall displays changed. They showed ancient history, events from 5,000 years ago. Saw the Terran ascendancy at its height, saw human fleets destroying worlds. And he saw the burning, saw cities turning to ash under human weapons. "Your ancestors nearly wiped us from existence," said. His voice was bitter. "The Terran ascendancy viewed us as obstacles, as animals in their way. They hunted us like vermin. Only 5,000 of my species survived. We hid for rebuilding, waiting." "That wasn't us," Na said fiercely. "We didn't do those things." "But you carry their blood," the Emperor replied. "You are them reborn. When we found Earth 15 years ago, when we discovered a world full of humans who had forgotten their past, what were we to do? Trust you? Hope you stayed peaceful? No. We enslaved you before you could remember what you were, before you could become the monsters again." "So this is revenge," said quietly. "This is prevention," corrected. "You proved us right. Look at you, armed with ancient weapons, leading armies, destroying our fleets. The Terran ascendancy has returned in all but name. You will kill us all if given the chance." The words hit like physical blows. Was the Emperor right? Were humans just repeating old mistakes? He thought about all that he had killed, about the rage that drove him forward. Was he any different from the ancient conquerors? He's trying to manipulate you, Na said, reading's expression. Don't listen. I speak only truth, said. You and I, we are both servants of history, caught in a cycle of violence that began long before we were born. Neither of us can stop it now. Maybe we were monsters once, said slowly. Maybe our ancestors deserved what they got, but the people out there, the humans living now, they're innocent. They didn't ask to be enslaved. They didn't choose this war. Neither did my people, the emperor replied, yet here we are. The door behind them burst open. General entered with a squad of elite guards. The general's scales were and burned from battle, but his eyes burned with hatred. Finally, hissed, the mammal who killed so many of my soldiers, you should have stayed dead. Turned to face the general. The room erupted in violence. His remaining soldiers engaged guards while himself faced the general. They had unfinished business from the night died. The fight was savage, was fast and skilled, using 2 energy blades against ancient sword. They clashed again and again, weapons screaming as they met. Around them's team was being overwhelmed. Sun fell, then me. The soldiers died one by one. Only Na remained, fighting 3 guards at once. She was bleeding from multiple wounds but refused to fall. Then made his move. While was engaged, the general broke away and rushed toward Na, blades raised for a killing blow. No screamed. Na saw the attack coming. She could have dodged, could have saved herself. Instead, she pushed one of the wounded soldiers out of the way and took the blow meant for him. The blades punched through her armor and into her chest. Time seemed to slow. Watched Na fall, saw the light fading from her eyes. She looked at him one last time and smiled. Finish it, she whispered. Not for revenge, for tomorrow. Then she was gone. Something broke inside, or maybe something was finally released. All the rage and grief he had been carrying, all the death and suffering, it all came pouring out. But it was not mindless fury. It was cold, focused purpose. The keeper's gift fully awakened, moved faster than he had ever moved before, faster than should be possible. He disarmed with a single motion, then drove his fist through the general's armor and into his chest. The general's eyes went wide with shock before death took him. Turned to the remaining guards. They tried to fight, but they might as well have been standing still. In seconds, they were all dead. Only Emperor remained, still sitting on his throne. Impressive, the Emperor said, but it changes nothing. Kill me and my fleet will destroy Earth. The planet killer is set to activate if my life signs stop. You cannot win. Then we both lose, said. He raised his weapon, pointing it at the Emperor. His hand was steady despite the tears running down his face. I've lost everyone. Nudge in all of them. I have nothing left to lose. Wait, said. For the first time, the Emperor looked uncertain. Perhaps there is another way. Talk fast, said. The Emperor stood slowly, his ancient body moving with careful dignity. I am 300 years old. I have seen empires rise and fall. I have fought wars that lasted decades, and I am tired, so very tired. What are you saying? I am saying that maybe this cycle can end with us, said. Your people want freedom, my people want security. Perhaps both are possible. Did not lower his weapon. How? A truce, the Emperor said. My fleet withdraws from your solar system. Humans rebuild on Earth and your colonies, but you agree to stay here, to not expand beyond your system for 100 years. Both our species get time to heal, to forget old hatred. And if we break that agreement, asked. Then the war begins again, replied. But at least we will have tried. At least we will have given peace a chance. Thought about Na's last words. For tomorrow, she had said, not for revenge, for the future. He thought about all the humans who had died, all the sacrifices made. Did they die so more could die, or did they die so others could live? He lowered his weapon. 100 years, said, but the first who breaks the truce, I will come for them personally. Death returned me once. I can wait. Agreed, the Emperor said. He moved to the communication panel and broadcast orders to his fleet. Withdraw from the solar system immediately, all hostilities to cease. The ships began jumping to faster-than-light travel, leaving as quickly as they had come. 5 years later stood at a memorial on the moon. It was made of black stone, and it carried the names of every human who died in the rebellion. There were too many names. The list went on for hundreds of meters. Visited Nuss' name every day. He traced the letters with his fingers and whispered apologies she would never hear. You should be leading them, a voice said. Sun approached, walking with a cane. She had survived the throne room barely. Now she helped lead the new Terran Republic Council along with others who survived. The people want you as their leader. I'm a weapon, not a leader, said quietly. I was made for war. Let others handle peace. The keepers called again, Sun said. She handed him a. We picked up their signal last night. They say something is coming. Something worse than they say they need you. Looked at the data. It showed anomalies at the edge of the solar system, strange readings that matched nothing in human or databases. Something was out there, something ancient and hungry. How long do we have? He asked. Unknown, Sun replied. Could be years, could be months. Looked back at the memorial, at Nuss' name glowing in the setting sun. He had wanted rest. He had wanted peace, but death kept bringing him back. The keepers had warned him. His purpose was not finished. Tell the council to prepare, said. Train more soldiers, build more ships. Whatever is coming, we'll face it together. And you, Sun asked. Turned toward the stars where new threats waited in the darkness. 5 years of peace had been nice, but he had always known it would not last. Death had returned him for a reason, and that reason was not finished. I'll do what I always do, said. His voice was hard but not bitter. He had made his peace with what he was. I'll fight for humanity, for tomorrow, for everyone who died believing we deserved a future. He walked away from the memorial, heading toward the training grounds. There was work to do. There were always threats waiting. That had been just the beginning. But humanity would be ready. They had remembered who they were. They had found their strength again. And they had the man death could not keep. The returned would fight again, and again, and again. For as long as humanity needed him. Forever if necessary.